Let me tell you about my sister, Serafina, the golden child, the viper in designer clothing, the architect of my deepest heartbreak. She basked in the sunshine of our parents' adoration, while I existed in her long, calculated shadow. She saw my happiness, my first real, untainted joy with Liam, and she couldn't stand it. So, she did what she does best. She destroyed it. She wove a tapestry of lies so convincing, so venomous, that she ripped him away from me, poisoning his mind against me. And then, the ultimate cruelty. She married him. She took my love, my future, my trust, and paraded it like a trophy. But empires built on deceit crumble, don't they? Now, years later, after he finally saw through her charade and left her for someone else, she comes crawling back, dripping false tears and apologies. Does she want forgiveness? Maybe. Does she deserve it? Absolutely not. My revenge wasn't plotted, it was lived. It's the peace in my home, the genuine love I share with my husband, Ethan, and the beautiful, quiet satisfaction of knowing her poison couldn't permanently blight my life. Her misery is the echo of her own making, and hearing it is, I admit, the sweetest kind of vindication. Growing up in our sun-drenched Pasadena home should have been idyllic. Manicured lawn, swimming pool sparkling under the California sky, parents who provided everything, materially at least. But the emotional landscape was tilted, always favoring Serafina. She was 2 years older, blessed with a seemingly effortless charm that captivated Mom and Dad. She had the brighter smile, the quicker wit, the uncanny ability to always say the right thing, especially when it subtly undermined me. I was Alara, the quiet one, the artistic one, the one who always seemed to be too sensitive or making things difficult. Our parents never explicitly said they loved her more, but it was woven into the fabric of our lives. Serafina got the front seat, the bigger allowance, the benefit of the doubt. Her achievements were lauded. Mine were acknowledged with a polite nod before the conversation inevitably circled back to Serafina's latest triumph. If we argued, which was often the default assumption was that I must have provoked her. Alara, you know how Serafina gets, Mom would sigh, a phrase that simultaneously excused Serafina's behavior and placed the blame squarely on my shoulders. The bullying wasn't always overt physical torment, though there were pinches under the table and tripped steps, accidentally, on the stairs. Mostly it was psychological. She'd borrow my favorite sweater and forget to return it, only for me to find it stained or torn weeks later stuffed at the bottom of her closet. She'd spread small, embarrassing rumors about me at school. Nothing provable, just whispers that chipped away at my confidence. She had a knack for finding my insecurities and pressing down, hard. If I was proud of a drawing, she'd point out a flaw only she could see. If I made a new friend, she'd subtly charm them away or plant seeds of doubt about my loyalty. I learned to keep my joys small, guarded. Sharing anything precious with Serafina felt like handing her ammunition. My bedroom became my sanctuary, filled with sketchbooks and novels, worlds I could control. I poured my feelings onto paper, drawing intricate fantasies, or writing stories where the overlooked heroine always found her strength. Academically, we were different. Serafina excelled in subjects that required memorization and presentation: history, literature, drama. She could talk her way through anything. I gravitated towards math and science, the logic and order a soothing counterpoint to the emotional chaos of home. I also loved art, the only place where my sensitivity was seen as a strength. But even there, Serafina found ways to intrude. She'd critique my technique with faux concern. "Oh, Alara, are you sure that perspective is right? It looks a little skewed." Our parents, lacking any artistic inclination themselves, would nod along, assuming Serafina, in her infinite wisdom, must be correct. College offered a brief respite. I chose UCLA, focusing on graphic design, deliberately putting miles between my dorm room and our family home. Serafina went to USC, closer, and, in her eyes, more prestigious. We saw less of each other, and for the first time, I started to breathe. I made friends who valued my quiet nature, professors who praised my creativity without comparing me to anyone. I started to build a fragile sense of self, independent of my sister's shadow. But Serafina never truly let go. She'd call frequently, her voice dripping with faux sweetness, asking about my life in a way that felt more like reconnaissance than genuine interest. She'd casually drop mentions of her glamorous parties, her important internships, her ever-growing circle of admirers. Each call felt like a subtle reminder of her perceived superiority, a way to ensure I didn't get too comfortable in my own skin. The distance helped, but the patterns established in childhood ran deep. A part of me still flinched, anticipating the hidden barb in her compliments, the subtle dismissal lurking beneath her questions. Little did I know, the worst was yet to come. My brief escape was merely the calm before the storm she was brewing. Met Liam during my senior year. It was at a mutual friend's party, one of those crowded, noisy affairs near campus. I usually faded into the background at such events, content to observe, but Liam sought me out. He worked in finance, recently transferred to a downtown LA firm, and possessed a quiet intensity that intrigued me. He wasn't loud or flashy like the guys Serafina usually dated. He listened more than he spoke, his eyes thoughtful and kind. We talked for hours that night, tucked away in a corner, the party noise fading into a dull roar. He asked about my art, my post-graduation plans, seeming genuinely interested in my quiet passions. He didn't interrupt, didn't try to one-up me. He just saw me. It felt revolutionary. Our relationship blossomed quickly, naturally. Dates involved, exploring hidden city gardens, visiting quirky art galleries, long walks on Santa Monica Beach after sunset, sharing dreams and anxieties under the vast, starry sky. Liam loved my creativity, admired my dedication to my design work, and encouraged my ambition. He made me feel cherished, not just tolerated. For the first time, I felt like the protagonist in my own life, not a supporting character in Serafina's drama. He was patient and understanding about my complicated family dynamic. I'd shared snippets, cautiously at first, about Serafina's dominance and the parental favoritism. He listened without judgment, validating my feelings. "That sounds incredibly tough, Alara," he'd say, his hand covering mine. "You deserved better." His support was a balm on old wounds. We fell deeply in love. It was the kind of love I'd only read about or sketched in my notebooks. Steady, passionate, and built on mutual respect and trust. We talked about the future, moving in together after graduation, potential career paths, even joked about ridiculously named pets. He met my friends, who adored him. I felt lighter, happier, more myself than I ever had before. This happiness felt solid, real, something Serafina couldn't touch. Introducing Liam to my family was nerve-wracking. As expected, Serafina turned on the charm full blast. She monopolized the conversation, regaling Liam with tales of her USC triumphs and her prestigious internship prospects, subtly positioning herself as the more accomplished, more interesting sister. She'd direct questions at Liam, barely allowing me to speak, then answer for me or reinterpret my words. "Oh, Alara means she hopes to get into a good design firm," she'd clarify, undermining the offer I'd already tentatively received. Liam seemed polite, but slightly reserved around her. He focused his attention on me whenever possible, squeezing my hand under the table, catching my eye with a reassuring smile. Afterwards, he said, "Your sister is a lot, but very different from you." I felt a surge of relief. He saw it. He saw me. Serafina's reaction to our relationship shifted over the following months. Initially, it was feigned indifference, punctuated by those subtle digs. Then, As Liam and I grew closer, discussing moving in together, a strange possessiveness emerged in her. She started calling Liam separately, ostensibly to ask for career advice or discuss investment strategies, subjects far removed from her usual interests. She'd invite him to events I couldn't attend due to work or prior commitments, framing it as trying to get to know him better for Alara's sake. I felt a prickle of unease, but I pushed it down. Liam always recounted these interactions openly, though he admitted Serafina could be overly familiar. He assured me I was the one he loved, that Serafina was just being Serafina. I clung to that reassurance, wanting desperately to believe that my happiness was finally secure, that my sister wouldn't dare tread on this sacred ground. I underestimated her ruthlessness. I underestimated the depths of her envy. The foundation of my beautiful new life was about to be systematically dismantled, brick by treacherous brick. The unraveling began subtly, insidiously. Serafina, ever the strategist, didn't launch a frontal assault. Instead, she employed a campaign of whispers, doubts, and carefully fabricated evidence. It started with comments Liam would casually relay back to me. "Serafina mentioned you seemed stressed about work. Is everything okay?" Or, "She was worried you might be feeling overwhelmed with our plans to move in together." Innocuous on the surface, but designed to plant seeds of doubt about my commitment, my stability. Then came the accidental discoveries. Serafina claimed she'd found an old diary of mine, something I hadn't kept since high school, conveniently left open in her room during a visit I knew hadn't happened. She tearfully confessed to Liam that she'd glanced at it and was shocked to read entries detailing my lingering feelings for an old college acquaintance, painting me as deceitful and emotionally unavailable. It was pure fiction. I hadn't seen or thought about that person in years, and I'd never kept a diary like the one she described. The masterstroke, however, involved technology. Serafina, who had always been adept at navigating social circles and manipulating perceptions, turned her skills to the digital realm. She somehow gained access to my old, barely used secondary email account, perhaps guessing a password, maybe exploiting a shared family computer login from years ago. From there, she crafted emails, supposedly from me to a male colleague I occasionally collaborated with on freelance projects. These emails were masterpieces of plausible deniability. They weren't overtly romantic, but filled with inside jokes taken out of context, mentions of late-night work sessions framed with suggestive ambiguity, and complaints about feeling unappreciated or misunderstood in my current relationship. She even spoofed the colleague's email address to create short, friendly replies, making it look like an ongoing, intimate correspondence hidden from Liam. She didn't show Liam the emails directly at first. Instead, she played the concerned sister. She told him she'd accidentally seen a notification pop up on my laptop screen, which she must have accessed while visiting our parents when I wasn't there. She claimed she saw a message from this colleague that seemed too familiar, and it made her worry. She acted hesitant, saying she didn't want to interfere but felt a moral obligation to protect Liam from potential heartbreak. Liam, already primed by her earlier whispers, became suspicious. He confronted me, not with anger initially, but with a troubled confusion. "Ilara, Serafina said she saw something, an email. Are you talking to someone else? Is there something you're not telling me?" I was blindsided, horrified. I denied everything vehemently, explaining the colleague was just a professional contact. I showed him my primary email, my texts. There was nothing incriminating because nothing was happening. But the seed of doubt Serafina had planted was taking root. Then Serafina delivered the proof. She tearfully presented Liam with printouts of the fabricated emails from the secondary account, complete with faked headers and timestamps. "I couldn't live with myself if I didn't show you, Liam," she sobbed. "I saw how much Ilara was hurting you. I think she's confused, maybe scared of commitment." Seeing the emails, cleverly mimicking my writing style, filled with twisted snippets of truth taken wildly out of context. It was devastating. Liam looked at the printouts, then at me, his expression hardening. My denials sounded hollow, desperate against the weight of the evidence. Serafina had played on his insecurities, perhaps whispering that my quietness was actually secretiveness. She had framed my genuine love as a performance, my occasional work stress as dissatisfaction with him. The argument that followed was the worst night of my life. My pleas, my explanations, my tears, they couldn't penetrate the wall of suspicion Serafina had built. "How could you, Ilara?" Liam asked, his voice raw with pain and disbelief. "All this time, was any of it real?" He couldn't reconcile the loving woman he knew with the deceitful image Serafina had painted, backed by her fabricated proof. Trust, once shattered, is nearly impossible to piece back together, especially when the saboteur is feeding you shards of glass disguised as truth. He believed her. He believed I had betrayed him. He moved out within days. The breakup was swift, brutal, and absolute. He refused to hear any more explanations, convinced I was lying to cover my tracks. The pain was indescribable, a physical ache in my chest, a constant ringing in my ears. It wasn't just losing Liam. It was the sickening realization that my own sister had orchestrated it, sacrificing my happiness for her own twisted reasons. The world I had so carefully built, the first place I had truly felt safe and loved, lay in ruins at my feet, destroyed by the one person who should have protected me. The aftermath was a blur of numb disbelief and sharp, agonizing pain. I moved out of the apartment we had shared, the place filled with ghosts of laughter and whispered future plans. Packing boxes felt like packing away parts of myself. Each object, a mug he'd given me, a photo from our beach trip, a book we'd read together, was a fresh stab of grief. My parents' reaction was predictably filtered through Serafina's narrative. They expressed sympathy for Liam, commending Serafina for her bravery in revealing my supposed infidelity. "We're just so disappointed, Ilara," my mother said, her voice laced with weary disapproval. "After everything Liam did for you. And to think Serafina had to be the one to uncover it. It must have been so difficult for her." My attempts to explain the truth were dismissed as defensive lies. I was trapped in the villain role she had scripted for me. The truly sickening twist came barely 3 months later. Serafina, ever the opportunist, had seamlessly transitioned from concerned confidant to romantic interest in Liam's eyes. She had been his shoulder to cry on, the one who understood his pain because she had witnessed my betrayal firsthand. He was vulnerable, hurting, and likely confused. She offered comfort, validation, and a skewed version of events where she was the loyal sister trying to protect him. Their engagement announcement felt like a physical blow. It was splashed across Serafina's social media, triumphant photos of the happy couple. Serafina flashing a large diamond ring, Liam smiling, though his eyes looked hollow somehow. The caption gushed about finding unexpected love after navigating a difficult time. It was a public rewriting of history, cementing her victory and my humiliation. Friends who knew me well were appalled, offering support and expressing disbelief at Liam's actions. But others, acquaintances or those closer to Serafina's circle, accepted her narrative. I saw the pitying glances, heard the hushed whispers. The isolation felt profound. The wedding was planned with breathtaking speed, a lavish affair in Santa Barbara 6 months after the engagement. I received an invitation, a final cruel twist of the knife. The thought of attending, of watching my sister marry the man she stole from me, was unbearable. I sent my regrets, citing a prior commitment, though the only commitment I had was to preserving what little remained of my sanity. Seeing the wedding photos online later, Serafina radiant in white, Liam standing beside her looking stiffly formal, solidified the finality of it. She had won. She had taken the life I was building, the love I cherished, and claimed it as her own. The sense of injustice was a burning coal in my gut. My world had been shattered, my reputation tarnished, my heart broken, all orchestrated by my own flesh and blood. The path forward seemed impossibly dark, overshadowed by her triumphant, stolen happiness. The first year after the wedding was the hardest. I felt adrift, hollowed out. The betrayal wasn't just romantic, it was familial, cutting cords I hadn't even realized were still holding me tethered to my past. I minimized contact with my parents, the conversations too painful, too laden with unspoken accusation and Serafina's perceived sainthood. Seeing Serafina was out of the question. Needed distance desperately. I decided to leave Los Angeles. The city felt haunted by memories of Liam, by the constant low-level anxiety of potentially running into him and Serafina. My graphic design career offered flexibility, so I took a leap. I accepted a position with a promising tech startup in San Diego. It felt far enough away to start fresh, yet still within the familiar embrace of the California coast. The move was cathartic. Packing up my LA life felt like shedding a heavy skin. Setting up my small apartment near Balboa Park, exploring new neighborhoods, focusing intensely on my challenging new job. It was all part of a deliberate effort to rebuild. Work became my refuge. I poured my energy into creative projects, finding satisfaction in tangible achievements, in deadlines met and designs praised on their own merit. Healing wasn't linear. There were nights spent crying, days filled with a dull ache of loss, moments where anger flared, hot and consuming. I started seeing a therapist, someone entirely removed from my situation, who helped me unpack the years of emotional manipulation by Serafina and the trauma of the betrayal. She helped me see that Liam's willingness to believe Serafina's lies spoke volumes about him too, perhaps about his own insecurities, or a lack of true faith in our relationship. It didn't excuse Serafina, but it helped me reframe Liam, not just as a victim of her scheme, but as someone who ultimately failed me. Slowly, cautiously, I began to build a new life. I made friends through work, joined a hiking group, rediscovered my love for sketching in the park on weekends. I learned to enjoy my own company again, finding peace in solitude rather than loneliness. Trusting people, especially romantically, felt daunting. I went on a few awkward dates, arranged by well-meaning friends, but my guard was high. Then, about 2 years after my move, I met Ethan. It was completely unexpected. I was at a local coffee shop, sketching in my notebook, when he commented on my drawing. He wasn't pushy or overly flirtatious, just genuinely curious. He was an architect, relatively new to San Diego himself, with kind eyes and a calm, steady presence that immediately put me at ease. Our connection wasn't the whirlwind that Liam and I had been. It was slower, quieter, built on conversation and shared interests. Ethan was different. He was observant, thoughtful, and incredibly patient. He listened, truly listened, when I spoke about my past. Not the specifics of Serafina's betrayal, at first, but the general difficulties with my family, the feeling of being overshadowed. He never pressed for details I wasn't ready to share. He admired my resilience, my independence, the life I was building for myself. He loved my art, framing one of my sketches for his apartment. He celebrated my professional successes with genuine enthusiasm. With Ethan, I never felt like I had to perform or pretend. He saw my vulnerabilities not as weaknesses, but as part of who I was, proof of the battles I'd fought and survived. Learning to trust again was a process, but Ethan made it feel safe. His consistency, his unwavering support, his quiet affection. It chipped away at the walls I'd built around my heart. He showed me that love didn't have to be fraught with drama or hidden agendas. It could be a partnership, a sanctuary. When I eventually told him the full story about Liam and Serafina, his reaction wasn't shock or disbelief. but quiet anger on my behalf, and profound empathy for what I'd endured. "She didn't deserve you, Alara," he said simply, holding me close. And neither did he, if he couldn't see the truth right in front of him. His validation felt incredibly healing. Ethan and I dated for 3 years before he proposed. It wasn't a grand, public gesture, but a quiet, heartfelt moment during a weekend trip to Big Sur, overlooking the ocean cliffs at sunset. It felt perfectly us. Saying yes felt like stepping fully into the sunshine after years in the shadows. Our wedding was the antithesis of the lavish spectacle Serafina had staged. We opted for an intimate ceremony at a beautiful historic inn near San Diego, surrounded by a small group of close friends and Ethan's warm, welcoming family. I invited my parents out of a residual sense of obligation, but made it clear that Serafina was not welcome. To my surprise, they came, perhaps sensing the shift in dynamics, the undeniable solidity of my happiness with Ethan. They were polite, reserved, but witnessing my genuine joy seemed to, perhaps, plant a seed of doubt about the narrative they had so readily accepted years ago. Or maybe not. It hardly mattered anymore. Married life with Ethan settled into a comfortable, fulfilling rhythm. We bought a charming Spanish-style house with a small garden where I could finally plant flowers without fear of them being trampled. Our home became a haven filled with laughter, shared meals, quiet evenings reading side by side, and the easy companionship that comes from deep mutual respect and affection. Ethan's career flourished, and my freelance graphic design business took off, allowing me more creative freedom. We traveled, adopted a rescue dog named Buster, whose goofy antics brought daily joy, and built a life grounded in trust and partnership. Ethan knew the broad strokes of Serafina's treachery, but I rarely spoke of her. She occupied a shrinking space in my mind, relegated to a painful past I had successfully moved beyond. My happiness wasn't a reaction to her. It was something Ethan and I had built together, authentic and strong. Occasionally, I'd hear snippets about her life through the grapevine, relayed awkwardly by my mother during brief phone calls. Talk of lavish holidays, expensive renovations on the house. She shared with Liam Serafina's promotions at her marketing firm. It all sounded hollow, performative. I felt no envy, only a distant pity for Liam, trapped in the gilded cage she had constructed. My life wasn't about flashy displays. It was about quiet contentment, genuine connection, and the profound peace of knowing I was loved unconditionally, for exactly who I was. The contrast between my reality and the life Serafina had stolen and presumably lived couldn't have been starker. I had found something real, something sustainable. I had, inadvertently, won. The news arrived, as such news often does, through an uncomfortable phone call from my mother. It had been nearly 5 years since I'd last seen Serafina, 6 years since her wedding to Liam. My life with Ethan was stable, happy, and blessedly free of her drama. "Alara, dear," Mom began, her voice unusually hesitant. There's something about Serafina." My guard went up instantly. "Is she okay?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "Physically, yes, but things aren't good. Liam left her." A beat of silence hung in the air. I didn't feel shock or even surprise. Somehow, deep down, I think I always knew a foundation built on lies couldn't hold forever. "Oh?" I kept my voice even. Apparently he's been seeing someone else, one of her colleagues actually. Younger." Mom sighed heavily. "It all came out rather suddenly. He moved out last week. Serafina is devastated. And there are financial complications. Lawyers are involved. It sounds like he was quite discreet about moving assets." So, Liam had cheated. The irony wasn't lost on me. The man who supposedly left me for infidelity was, himself, unfaithful. And he'd left Serafina, the architect of our breakup, for someone. else, just as he had left me for her, albeit under false pretenses. Karma, it seemed, had finally delivered its invoice. Mom continued, clearly uncomfortable. She's taking it very hard. She's staying with us for now. She wants to talk to you, Alara. Talk to me? About what? She wants to apologize. The request hung there, heavy and unwelcome. An apology, years too late, offered only now that her own world was collapsing. It felt less like genuine remorse and more like a desperate act from someone who had run out of options. I don't know, Mom, I said honestly. There's a lot of history there. I know, dear, but she seems truly broken up about everything. I ended the call noncommittally, needing time to process. A strange mix of emotions washed over me, a vindication I hadn't sought but couldn't deny, a profound sense of distance from her pain and a weariness at the thought of reopening old wounds. A few days later, Serafina called my cell. Her number flashed on the screen, a name I hadn't seen light up my phone in half a decade. I let it ring, then go to voicemail. The message she left was tearful, rambling, pleading for a chance to talk, to explain, to apologize. Against my better judgment, fueled perhaps by a morbid curiosity and a desire for final closure, I agreed to meet her. Not at our parents' house, not on her turf. We met at a neutral cafe midway between San Diego and Pasadena. She looked smaller somehow. The polished, confident veneer had cracked. Her eyes were puffy. Her expensive clothes seemed ill-fitting. Her usual radiant energy replaced by a brittle desperation. She started talking before the waitress even brought our coffees. Tears flowed freely as she recounted Liam's betrayal, the humiliation of being left for a younger colleague, the shock of discovering financial deceit. It was a torrent of self-pity. Finally, she paused, looked at me directly, her eyes swimming. Alara, I am so sorry. For what I did to you and Liam, it was monstrous. I was jealous. So jealous of your happiness, of how easy things seemed for you, how he looked at you. Her confession felt hollow, timed too conveniently with her own misfortune. Jealous? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. You destroyed my life, Serafina. You built your marriage on a foundation of lies you crafted specifically to hurt me. You watched me break. You let our parents think the worst of me. And you felt nothing? I didn't. I mean, I regretted it later. She stammered, avoiding my gaze. But I was trapped. I thought Liam really loved me. Did you ever love him? I asked. Or did you just love taking him from me? She flinched. I did love him, in my own way. But what I did to you, it was unforgivable. I see that now. Seeing him do something similar to me, it made me realize. What? I cut her off, my voice cold. That actions have consequences? That betrayal hurts? You needed him to cheat on you to understand the pain you inflicted on me? She started sobbing again. I want you to forgive me, Alara. I need you to forgive me. You're my sister. I looked at her. My sister. The source of so much childhood pain, the architect of my deepest heartbreak, now reduced to this tear-streaked mess. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel hatred. I mostly felt nothing. A vast, cool emptiness where my connection to her used to be. I hear your apology, Serafina, I said finally, my voice steady. And maybe, someday, you'll find a way to forgive yourself. But my forgiveness? It's not yours to have. You haven't earned it. I stood up, leaving my untouched coffee on the table. My life is good now. I have Ethan. I have peace. You are part of a past I have worked very hard to overcome. Your current situation is the direct result of choices you made. I wish you clarity, but I can't give you what you're looking for." I walked away, leaving her sitting alone at the table, her shoulders slumped. There was no triumph in her tears, no joy in her downfall. But there was a profound, quiet satisfaction. My revenge wasn't loud or vindictive. It was the simple, undeniable fact that I had survived her poison. I had rebuilt my life, found genuine love, and achieved a happiness she had tried, and failed, to destroy. Her apology was irrelevant. Her suffering was her own creation. And my peace? That was mine, hard-won and untouchable. I didn't need to see her broken to feel whole. I already was.